So last night, Ford made an announcement about the future of their large vehicle EV pickup line and how they're going to handle moving forward the F-150 Lightning and the T3 and any of these future development products that they were talking about. And I have been a big proponent of Ford for a long time. I still am. I'm going to keep owning my Lightning, but I threw the disconnect switch at my house because my Lightning was powering my house, which is a fantastic feature. Drove down my mountain, which is always a pleasure in my Lightning. It handles those roads so well. Plugged in the truck and walked to my classroom. And as I was walking to my classroom, I just had a few thoughts that were mulling in my mind after the announcement was made yesterday. I had the pleasure of joining Kyle Connor and a few other Lightning owners on a chat last night. But the news was so sudden, I was literally dismissing my students, and it just didn't really have a chance for me to process through those thoughts a whole lot very well. But there's a couple things that I think really didn't help Ford to get the production that they were really hoping for, because they were talking about over 100,000 units a year, and they didn't quite get to that point. And I, as a Lightning owner, don't know how they didn't get there, because it is a fantastic product. So I feel like there's several things that were headwinds for Ford to get the Lightning into new owners' hands. One of the things that I experienced was education at the sales level. So in 2022, I was looking at getting a Cybertruck as a reservation holder, and I just realized that the pricing was going to blow my budget. There's no way for me to get a Cybertruck. At the time, all they had was the Tri-Motor and the Foundation series, all of which was just way outside of my budget. And at the time, it looked like they weren't even going to do a single motor Cybertruck, which was what I had reserved for and what I thought could fit in my budget. And at that time, it didn't look like that was going to happen. At the time, there was no Silverado, there was no Sierra, there was the Rivian R1T, but that was not going to fit the work that I need to do on my ranch, and it was also way above my budget. So as I was talking to different sales dealerships, Ford dealerships throughout the state of Colorado and even outside of Colorado, no one in the sales department knew a lot of EV information. I always knew way more about electric vehicles than any of the salespeople. And so all the questions that I had or the conversations I was trying to develop, I just felt like I was the one leading the conversation, and it was like talking almost to a wall in a lot of ways. Then there was a lot of another headwind that I think happened with the Lightning was the dealers. So Ford was trying to even do their own like company, almost like with the Model E, to sell electric vehicles. That was going off of the dealerships. Ford was demanding that dealerships put in a whole bunch of infrastructure that a lot of dealers didn't really feel like they wanted to really put the investment into. And then there was an announcement for the early years of the Lightning that only dealerships that sold the Lightning could service that Lightning. So for me, who bought a Lightning on another part of the state, I would have to go to that dealer to get anything serviced. Now, for me, that would be a 5-hour drive over a couple mountain passes. That was not something I was interested in. I know people who purchased Lightnings out of state because they were able to get better deals at a different market. Again, they would have to travel to that dealer out of state to get any kind of service done at the time. Now, that eventually changed, but in the early days of that product, and you're wanting to get people into that model, you're making a barrier to entry, not removing barriers to entry. When you're saying, hey, if you're going to go look at a different dealer for what's out of your area, you cannot service in the area you are. That's really hard. I think also in general is the truck culture. Truck culture has over 100 years of its own established design and what they're supposed to do, and this was going to be going against that general truck culture. And this is where I actually think the Cybertruck wins out, because Elon just went crazy with the design. They were not trying to get the traditional truck buyer. I think a lot of people own a Cybertruck. It's like one of their first trucks. And I think a few people who have F-150s or Silverados who got a Cybertruck, either already had a Tesla with like a Model 3, or they were willing to dip their toes into something radically new. But most truck drivers were not going to be interested in something like the Cybertruck. And I think Tesla knew that there is this general culture about truck ownership that they were not going to be able to tap into. So why not go crazy with a design? You give me your own thoughts on that in the comments below. But another thing is increasing competition. So when I bought my Lightning, all there really was the Rivian R1T, which was kind of feeling like a niche product. The Cybertruck, definitely a niche product. And then the F-150 Lightning. And then eventually the Silverado came out, the Sierra came out. There's, these future ideas with Scout coming out with a product possibly. And then, of course, some of these other manufacturers that are trying to do modular designs, but we're kind of relying on EV tax credits to help make it affordable. But at the time, there wasn't a whole lot of competition, and now there is a lot more EV truck competition, and the Lightning hadn't changed, at least in terms of what really, where it really matters: charging, range, software. A lot of those things stayed stagnant, or the battery decreased because they got a little bit more efficiency in there, but the range didn't really increase. It's still the same basic F-150 with small changes, but not massive changes. And so over a couple of years, an increasing competition and not really making any large product changes, I mean, the charging isn't really that much better and the range isn't that much better. I will give Ford credit. They were one of the first ones to open into the Tesla supercharging network, but that just expanded the amount of chargers you had access to, not how well your truck performed as a charging vehicle. And it didn't extend your range. It just gave you access to a different network. And then eventually everyone jumped in. And then there was no longer a sole key feature of owning Ford. Let me know your thoughts on that too. And then on the ownership side of things, that's like just trying to even purchase a truck and the headwinds of just getting someone to own a truck. Now on the other side of things, I've been an EV owner since 2019. DC fast charging costs have dramatically increased since I first owned a rear modal Tesla Model 3. So, of course, charging at home is cheaper, and I've got workplace charging. But if you don't have a home charger, or you're charging at home, but now you're going to tow, and you're going to tow to a vacation spot, and you're going to have to charge more often, and the cost of DC fast charging have gone up, where's the benefit compared to a gas F-150? There's not a whole lot. On a long distance road trip, charging a large battery EV vehicle has almost no discernible savings compared to a gas car, unless you're a really good pre-planner and shopper for what's ahead. But here in rural Colorado, there are some chargers here that give access to some really great wilderness camping spots, but you're going to be paying 60, 75 cents per kilowatt hour, and suddenly there is no gas savings. The gas savings then is purely charging at home, which, a truck is meant to be more than just back and forth from home to work. So if you're going to be towing, if you're going to be doing some work way out in the wilderness and you got to top off on a charge, unless you're paying for membership pricing at a charger network, you're not really getting a lot of gas savings. You're getting some, but not a lot. And maybe even 3-4 years ago, it was way different, but now just the charging costs are just high all around. It has been a great truck. I love my Lightning. My wife loves it more than I do. She loves driving that over our Model Y. It has been a phenomenal vehicle. It fits our family 4 and 2 dogs for a very comfortable road trip. We really enjoy our Lightning. It is limited as an EV. My wife will never take the Lightning on a long distance trip because she does not trust the software and she hates doing the legwork of having to plan ahead of time, like using a better route planner. She likes that with the Tesla, she can put in an address and it will tell her exactly where she needs to go, and it's accurate, and it's not going to take her to some random charger. Our Lightning one time tried to take us to a level 2 charger when there was a DC fast charger in that same town on a road trip. My wife is not interested in doing that kind of legwork. She just wants a plug and go. I'm okay doing that kind of legwork. It doesn't bother me. I actually kind of enjoy it. So I don't mind taking the Lightning on a long distance trip because I can do that kind of work and it doesn't bother me. But for someone who's new to the EV world and having to trust navigation software like what Ford currently has, that is a barrier to entry. And someone pulls up and sees the Tesla and finds out about Tesla navigation, that makes road tripping a far more convenient way to go into an EV and might get a seat transferred into that brand. Competition's great for that. But Ford is now limiting their competition, and I'm curious to see your thoughts on what you think about adding a gas component. I think it adds complexity. It's something that I'm not super interested in. I'm wanting direct battery or just gas. I'm not really interested in the middle. I have a feeling an e-rev vehicle is going to be a niche product because people are still going to think I either want to go full battery or they want to go full gas and not really be messing with stuff in the between. I know hybrids are selling really well, but at some point there's going to be a complex system that breaks down and it's going to be an expensive repair that might not have existed if it was just a full gas vehicle or full battery electric. Those are just some of my thoughts as I was walking this morning to my classroom. Let me know what you think in the comments below.